Hello everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Maybe you saw my previous series, the 12 parts about constructing a guitar high gain metal amplifier out of a radio and out of tubes from the 1930s. So this is now my second project here. This is a amplifier also consisting of tubes from the 1930s. This time we have this octal socket here, and most of the tubes are in a metal chassis. And the whole thing came out of a Russian radio. This is the circuit diagram, and the radio was called WEF Accord. So I had to stretch a bit my knowledge of Russian language. And what I did is actually I just ripped off the whole radio. I mean, the speakers were gone, and there was even a turntable inside, but that was also broken, and it was not really a collectible item. So I decided I just rip it off. I stripped the entire chassis and took out everything, and then sprayed the chassis again in this black color, which is similar to Time Bomb 1. And this was actually the backside of the radio, but I found out that there were some pre-drilled holes, and here were, I think, antenna cables, and here were loudspeaker cables, and something was connected there. Here was actually a voltage selector. So, and I just decided, no, it was a fuse holder, the voltage selector was here. And I just decided that this makes more sense to be the front of the radio, because these holes I could use then for input jack and the tone stack and the gain and the master volume pot. And yeah, let's have a look a bit at the tubes in this radio. So this one is now really one which features a rectifier tube, and it's a 5Z4C. Well, this is a problem with these Cyrillic names, because this 4C here, this would you would transcribe it as a S. So maybe I will just post in the channel what kind of tubes are inside. This is the Russian equivalent of a 6v6 tube. It's called 6P6S, and that one is, it's again, I really again did Pentodes only. So we have a Pentode here. This is in the, let's say, the driver stage. That one is, these were originally from the radio, but this one I put new. I had it in my stock. It was a NOS tube, never used before, a new old stock. It's a low microphony Pentode 6AC7 with a K at the end, means cling arm, which means low on microphony. And then I was experimenting on, I have still one socket empty left over, so I can decide to put one more tube inside. But this one is a really interesting tube. Let me just pull it out. It's a heptode, or in English it's called Pentagrid. Sometimes they even call it Pentagrid converter. So because I was experimenting here with also with a Pentode, the 6K3, which is called something like a what is the name? Remote cutoff Pentode. In German it would be Regelpentode. But with that I could reach a maximum gain of 10 to 15. So that was by far not enough for a high gain amp, if you consider that triodes like ECC 83 already have 80. So I just took it off again, and then I tried my luck, because in this radio, if you look at the schematic here, the very first tube is this Pentagrid converter. Now in the radio it is meant to be an oscillator and a mixer for the intermediate frequency. But for my purpose I just connected then the converter grid to the input signal, and the oscillator grid I just connected to ground via 1 megabit, via 1 meg ohm resistor. I was trying a bit out the way I connected this tube, and this gives now a gain of let me see. Yesterday I made some note, but I think it was something like almost 100. Where is it? Anyway, I can't find it. But this one, so the amplification factor of this tube is probably roughly 100. I remember I had it 2-volt input signal, and I had an output of 150 volts. Nah, no, it's not really 100, but almost like that. The same goes for this tube. For that one, I'm still not sure about the circuitry. I need to work a bit on this. And if we take a look under the chassis, so this time I try to, well, first of all, there's a little bit more experience now in building amplifiers, and so I could let's say do some things right from the start. On the back side, it's not much to see. This is a speaker output. The fuse holder is here, and this is a variable line out. And now let's take a, on the top, what do we see on the top? We have the mains transformer, which also features now separate wiring for heating of this tube. It's rectifier tube because Time Bomb 1 didn't have such a thing, so I had to use a solid state rectifier, but here I could really use a tube rectifier. Then this is the output transformer, and you saw it maybe in the previous series about Time Bomb 1. This I finally ripped off from Time Bomb and exchanged it against the Grand Stack version because that was sounding much better. So, but here it's inside, and I still have some suspicion about it, and I will tell you a bit later about it. And then this one is actually, I had it in my spare part pool. It was something like a regular transformer. Maybe it was even some sort of output transformer, but now I just use the primary coils of it as a choke, and with a big result, with a big effect, because the amp doesn't have any hum at the moment. It really surprised me very much. I was almost thinking it's dead, but it's not. So, and then if we look under the chassis, I need to be a bit careful here with this. That none of the tubes are damaged. Alright, so what's inside? Basically all cables here inside which are still loose and wild, they are just temporary, but I try to be a bit more careful with other wires to make them in something like a straight angle. But this is of course a quite early stage of the design, so not all wires are in a perfect shape, so it's like a bit of experimenting, and especially all the wires you see which are just flying, they are just temporarily. So let's start. What do we have? So here we have the input jack, and from there I need to look at my own topology. We go, where do we go? We go here to the first tube. This is this microphony, low microphony Pentode. From there we go to the gain pot, and this there's a voltage divider then, because we have already something like 100 volts here, so we are dividing that even behind the gain pot. Then we go to the next stage, to this Pentagrid converter. It's somewhere here already. We have some variable resistors again for adjusting the bias of the tubes, and it's very interesting to see how this bias really affects the signal. Well, and some further circuitry. At the moment it's already buried under these components here. And then finally we make our way here through the master volume, and that one is also something like a variable resistor for internal testing the amount of gain we are feeding behind the tone stack to the driver tube. And then what else do we have? So the power supply here, and here I'm deriving some extra screen grid voltage, and this is anti-hum. So that's the way it looks like currently. And sound wise, well, we are at a quite early stage of this amp. Let's say the mechanical part is 80% finished, but the sound part is probably finished only to 50%. And let me switch it on. I have some problems here with the power switch. Sometimes it flickers a bit. Okay, now it's not doing anything. Aha, it's coming up. Yeah, because this power switch had a lamp inside for 12 volt, but it's connected straight to the leads of the speaker. And when I fired it up, boof, it made boof, and the lamp blew. So I put a 220 volt lamp inside with a small resistor, but that resistor gets a bit hot. That's why the switch is damaged and I have to replace it. Also, you might wonder why these pots are so close to each other, but you see there were these holes drilled, and I found out that I use these holes, they're the same distance like here, and if I use these two holes and I drill a third hole, then I could just fit these tone stack here. I mean, it doesn't look so sexy, but I'm just trying to reuse what is there. And once again, we have also some open holes in the chassis. Yeah, so about the sound, once again I connected the standby here to this master volume, so if I turn it up, then the plate voltage will be applied. And yeah, maybe I'll just give it a short try and connect the guitar to it. Wait a second. Yeah, so let me connect the guitar jack. And at the moment I have still a problem with the output section here around this 6V6 for some reason, and I suspect it's this damn output transformer. We have a very steep decline of bass frequency, so I think the cutoff is somewhere at 500 Hertz, and under that, less than 500 Hertz, the bass becomes really very flat, and that's why I'm using the line out here at the moment, bypassing the output stage, and I connected this then to the return port of my angle. So that means in the angle I'm not using any part of the main of the preamp, but I'm just using the output stage. And for that, the big advantage is that I can then just test the preamp section here, and this is the one which really builds the tone, and that is the one which interests me at the moment most. So the gain is not so high like on Time Bomb 1, probably because there's a couple of component values around, like screen grid resistors and node resistors are still at an experimental stage. I'm not sure about the proper values. We have some gain, yeah, we have. So let me fire it up. Okay, so see, yeah, and I should connect. Oops. Okay, so now this thing is connected to my angle amplifier, and actually my guitar is now on a very low volume, so let me try to make volume full on guitar. No, it sounds very hollow, and let's check more for the gain part. And my usual mistake, I connected the bus, put in the bus resistor the wrong way, so at the moment the max bus is here. there is some gain, yeah, but it's far from being really high gain. The tone stack is working not too bad. I took more or less the same values like in Time Bomb 1. And the bass. That's maximum. So that's the current stage of my amp build, Time Bomb 2. Thanks for watching, and I'll post probably something more. Stay tuned. Bye bye.